In the instant the sky tore open, fate itself seemed to recoil. What descended was not merely power, but something ancient, something that had waited in silence for millennia to be unleashed. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, please consider supporting us through the donation. It really motivates us to keep creating. When Master Sable's question fell upon the air, Lin Yinping's gaze wavered. She looked from the keen spirit peacock to Han Li, hesitation flickering across her delicate features like a shadow stirred by wind. At that very moment, a burst of white radiance shimmered above the peacock's crown. From within the light, Grand Immortal Shu's face slowly emerged, suspended in mid-air like a phantom apparition. As Taoist Seven Wonders and Master Sable stared in astonishment, he gave a wry, almost self-mocking smile. "There is no need to search for me," he said calmly. "My corporeal body has already been destroyed. My nascent soul now resides within this bird." Master Sable's face drained of color. "How can this be? You are a late-stage cultivator. Could it be the ancient devil ancestor has already broken free?" Grand Immortal Shu's expression darkened, his eyes turning cold. "So you were already aware of that devil?" Master Sable let out a soft chuckle, raising a placating hand. "Fellow Taoist Shu, do not misunderstand. I only learned of this matter recently when my master transmitted information about what lies hidden here. The implications are grave. I had hoped you might enlighten us further." Though doubt flickered through Grand Immortal Shu's gaze, he was now reduced to a wandering nascent soul, stripped of authority and leverage. After a brief silence, he sighed. "The devil ancestor has indeed escaped her prison, but my body was not destroyed by her hand. We were ambushed by ancient corpse Qiong of the Myriad Demon Valley." Master Sable blinked in disbelief. "Myriad Demon Valley? Impossible. I have guarded the mountain's entrance the entire time. How could old corpse Qiong have slipped past me? He must have entered before we did." "Correct," Shu replied grimly. "Not only did he enter before us, he concealed the corpse Qi in his body with some arcane technique and disguised himself as a cultivator." A shadow passed through his face, the memory of that blood blade still searing in his thoughts. Taoist Seven Wonders frowned thoughtfully. "Then your defeat is hardly surprising. If corpse Qiong ambushed you, he likely relied upon the Myriad Demon Valley's form enchantment pearl. It is said that once consumed, the pearl allows one to alter their appearance at will and conceal demonic corpse, or any aberrant aura. Ordinary cultivators would never see through it. I doubt even my clear sound mirror could pierce such deception." A spark of recollection lit Master Sable's eyes. "Now that you mention it, I recall hearing that once the pearl is swallowed, one's magic power is greatly suppressed in exchange for its effects. When corpse Qiong made his move, his true form must have been revealed." Indeed, Immortal Shu said, resentment tightening his features. "He appeared in his original form the moment he struck." Seven Wonders turned his gaze to the keen spirit peacock and smiled faintly. "It is fortunate at least that your nascent soul escaped, and you have not yet fully possessed another body. With a suitable vessel and a century of secluded cultivation, your former strength may yet be restored." Shu let out a weary breath. "Brother Seven Wonders speaks wisely. Though I have temporarily attached myself to this peacock, I must find a proper body as soon as possible." Seven Wonders gave no further comment. Instead, his gaze shifted toward Guiling, an odd light dancing in his eyes. "This, fellow Taoist, is unfamiliar to me. May I know your name?" he asked. Beside him, Master Sable's eyes narrowed slightly as he began to scrutinize the horned woman more closely. After all, before two grand cultivators of similar rank, Guiling could not conceal her identity as a grade 10 demon beast. Her expression remained unreadable. Han Li, however, stepped forward with an easy smile. "This is fellow Taoist Guiling. I am Han Li. We were transported to this mountain after accidentally activating a teleportation formation." Master Sable's brows lifted subtly at the sight of Han Li speaking on her behalf. His gaze lingered on him with newfound interest. "How unusual," he said pleasantly. "May I ask which sect you hail from, fellow Taoist Han?" I do not believe we have met." Though this was Han Li's first encounter with Master Sable, he could already surmise that the man was an elder of one of the 10 great sects. Maintaining courtesy, he replied, "I am but a wandering cultivator. It is only natural you would not know my name. However, since you have arrived alongside Taoist 7 wonders of the Heavenly Devil sect, this matter must be of great significance. If I may ask, how did you reach the 8th floor of the pagoda? The teleportation formation refused to activate." Master Sable gave a light laugh. "How careless of me, I have yet to properly introduce myself. I am Master Sable of the High Zenith sect. As for our entry, we did not rely upon any formation. We employed the High Zenith sect's World Breaker talisman and forcibly breached the 8th floor's walls." Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly. "The World Breaker talisman? Can it truly shatter such barriers?" "Not by itself," Master Sable admitted. "It required a specific secret technique and the heaven-bound sword. Though I did not expect to be trapped within a sealed space the moment we entered." He clicked his tongue lightly as his gaze swept across their surroundings. Lin Yinping sighed softly, admiration coloring her voice. "I have long heard of the High Zenith sect's World Breaker talisman and the heaven-bound sword. What we struggled so greatly to achieve was accomplished by you with ease. It is no wonder your sect stand among the foremost powers of the righteous and devilish Tao in Great Jin." Master Sable stroked his beard modestly. "Fairylin overpraises us. The treasures of the Endless Sky Temple are hardly insignificant. It is merely that we possessed methods more suited to tearing open space." She could only smile faintly at his humility. Though the Endless Sky Temple boasted a comparable number of high-grade cultivators, it could not rival the ancient legacies and accumulated treasures of those 2 towering sects. 7 Wonders' gaze drifted across the desolate expanse. "Where is old Devil Qian? Master Sable mentioned he entered this mountain before us." At those words, Immortal Shu and Lin Yinping both cast subtle glances toward Han Li. Lady Mu had once revealed that Han Li and old Devil Qian had clashed. They had doubted Han Li's ability to slay the old devil, but having witnessed his strength, now suspicion stirred. Master Sable and 7 Wonders caught the exchange and turned their attention fully upon Han Li. Inside, Han Li sighed. Outwardly, he remained composed. "Fellow Taoist, Qian and I parted ways after leaving Kunwu Hall," he said evenly. "He is likely seeking treasure elsewhere. As for the other elders of the Ying Sifting sect, I know nothing of their whereabouts." Immortal Shu's voice turned solemn. "There is no need to speculate. On their way here, they were ambushed by the Ye clan's Grand Elder. They have already perished. Their nascent souls were destroyed." "I see," Han Li replied, nodding faintly. Master Sable cast him a peculiar glance. "Kunwu Mountain is truly a place of peril for so many to have fallen here." 7 Wonders looked toward the shattered palace ruins in the distance, his expression grave. "It is fortunate the Ying Sifting sect elders are gone. That spares us certain complications. Now fellow Taoists tell us of the ancient devil ancestor." "Yes," Master Sable added, smiling brightly. "We came here precisely for that matter. Since this concerns the stability of the entire cultivation world, I hope you will join forces with us." Immortal Shu and Lin Yinping exchanged silent looks, their expressions complicated. Bound by restrictions they dared not reveal, they hesitated, uncertain of Han Li's intentions. Guiling remained silent as ever. Han Li stood calm and unruffled, his gaze, steady, almost towering, as it met that of the 2 grand cultivators. A flicker of astonishment passed between Master Sable and 7 Wonders. It was unmistakable Immortal Shu and Lin Yinping feared this man. "Since you wish to know of the devil ancestor," Han Li said indifferently, "I shall explain." "Good. In that case." Before Master Sable could finish, a heaven-shattering explosion erupted from the direction of the palace. A dozen pillars of blinding white light shot skyward. The entire space trembled violently. A piercing, shrill cry tore through the air. The earth itself split apart, white radiance pouring upward as space warped and twisted like torn silk. "Not good," 7 Wonders shouted, horror flooding his face. The devil ancestor has begun dissolving the ninth floor's seal. To think she could recover so quickly. The seal of the ninth floor. Hanli felt the surrounding space begin to buckle and collapse. Without hesitation, silver light flared around him as the Tailstar shield materialized, forming a shimmering barrier. Before he could act further, the white pillars dimmed, then turned pitch black. In the next instant, they surged outward, curving wildly in every direction. Wherever they passed, space split open, white and black radiance clashing violently. Spatial tears. For the first time, Han Li's composure cracked. A fire-red talisman appeared in his palm. He slapped it onto his body. Crimson light erupted as a blazing flood dragon coiled around him, then fused into his flesh. In a blink, he stood transformed, half man, half flood dragon, scales gleaming with scarlet brilliance. Lin Yinping cried out sharply as a jagged black fissure ripped open in the air before them. When Han Li beheld that streak of darkness, his heart tightened. It was not merely a crack. It was an abyss without end, an insatiable void that devoured all light, all matter, all hope, and returned nothing. Having once endured the terror of being swallowed by a spatial tear, Han Li knew all too well the horror it concealed. The memory alone was enough to chill his blood. Even so, he forced himself to steady his breathing and gather his thoughts. With the spirit subjugation talisman surging through him, his magic power was violently driven to the peak of the mid-nascent soul stage. The Tailstar essence shield around him flared with blinding brilliance as he poured every ounce of that forcibly elevated power into it. Against a tear of this size, he thought grimly, so long as I avoid brushing its edges, I should survive this intact. The darkness swallowed him whole. A suffocating void pressed in from all sides, and dizziness struck like a hammer. For a heartbeat there was nothing, no light, no sound, no direction. Then brilliance burst forth around him. Han Li found himself standing in an entirely different space. Having survived such passage before, he reacted instantly, clearing his mind and scanning his surroundings with razor-sharp vigilance. The ninth floor, he breathed. He stood within a vast, isolated expanse, stretching several kilometers across its emptiness, oppressive and unnatural. A ravenous yellow mist encircled the area, flickering and dimming as though alive. There was no telling how far it extended beyond sight. Beneath his feet rose a colossal altar, hundreds of meters tall, yet strangely narrow its sides, lined with descending steps on all four faces. It was carved from an ethereal jade of immaculate purity, its surface gleaming with solemn majesty. Encircling the altar stood enormous stone pillars, arranged in a vast ring forming an ancient spell formation. They blazed with steady radiance, clearly active. Atop the altar lay a gigantic two-headed wolf. Around it, silhouettes clashed in violent battle. The wolf's black head exhaled an endless torrent of inky, devilish chi, thick and viscous as oil. The figures opposing it could only be the cultivators and demons from the 8th floor. Long Meng, still occupying Hua Tianqi's body, hovered mid-air, her hands weaving intricate gestures. Two enormous white spectral hands formed above her and repeatedly smashed downward, colliding with the surging black chi in thunderous bursts. Farther away stood the Ye clan Grand Elder Corpse, Xiong, the silver-winged night fiend, and the others, all keeping their distance, wary of being drawn into the deadly exchange. Only the large-headed eccentric was nowhere to be seen. But what truly astonished Han Li was another sight. The younger elder of the immortal form sect stood at the wolf's side. Her eyes were vacant, lifeless. Black chi bulged grotesquely beneath the skin of her face. She manipulated a glittering silver textile shuttle, its arcs of light slashing fiercely as she engaged a furious Lady Mu in combat. Elsewhere, the others unleashed their most formidable techniques upon the wolf without restraint. Yellow winds roared and churned across its massive body, within which a black flood dragon lurked. The dragon spat torrents of dark wind that clashed against a gigantic silver lotus and 8 phantom beast projections. The silver lotus hovered motionless in mid-air, radiating pure brilliance. Ancient talismanic characters, palm-sized and archaic, streamed endlessly across its surface. Each time the black torrent struck, its explosions erupted, scattering the devilish winds. The Black Wind Flag. The Eight-Spirit Ruler. Han Li's heart stirred at the sight of the two immortal form sect elders. Guiling had reported earlier that they were arranging some kind of underground formation. Had circumstances not forced him away, he would have observed them in secret. Now it was evident one of them had fallen under the Elder Devil's influence. Yet what unsettled him most was this. Despite facing so many high-level cultivators and demon beasts, the two-headed wolf still held the upper hand. Its attackers were being steadily forced back. The black chi it exhaled was so dense it resembled flowing tar, aside from Corpse Xiong's crimson blade hacking wildly through it. The others dared not allow their treasures to make direct contact. They could only launch long-range assaults, intercepting the serpentine streams of devilish chi before they reached them. If not for Long Meng and Corpse Xiong bearing the brunt of the wolf's fury, or the lotus form of the Eight-Spirit Ruler, occupying much of its focus, the rest would likely have been annihilated already. Even the silver-winged Night Fiend's Ghost Fiend threads and the Lion Hawk's golden shockwaves seemed utterly ineffective against that dreadful chi. After carefully observing the battlefield, Han Li noticed something peculiar. The two-headed wolf never left the altar. It fought fiercely, but as if bound to that spot guarding its summit. Then a furious voice rang out in the distance. Not good. How did the Elder Devil obtain the magic tool required to open the seal? Han Li turned. Master Sable stood roughly 60 meters away, his face stricken with shock. Taoist Seven Wonders stood beside him, his expression equally grim. Only then did Han Li realize that everyone from the 8th floor had been transported here, none bearing visible injuries. So the spatial tear had not been random. It must have been triggered by some activated restriction, forcibly teleporting all present from the 8th floor into this sealed domain. Lin Yinping's face, however, was as pale as snow. The sudden upheaval had shaken her profoundly. Following Master Sable and Seven Wonders' gazes, Han Li focused on the altar's rear. And then he froze. Behind it stood two enormous stone tablets, each nearly 10 meters tall. At first glance they seemed utterly unremarkable, yet the moment his eyes fell upon them, recognition struck like lightning. Flexial Spirit Jade, the same material as the shattered tablet he had once seen deep within the devilish chi whirlpool off the shores of Heavenly South. But unlike the broken relic of the past, these two tablets remained intact. One bore a dark green block seal embedded within its surface. The entire stone pillar trembled faintly, radiating subdued black light. Han Li's pupils contracted. That radiance was resonating with the spell formation surrounding the altar. The pillar was clearly a core component of the sealing formation. The longer he stared, the more his thoughts churned. At that moment, Lady Mew noticed the newcomers and called out with urgency, "Master Sable, Brother Seven Wonders, you've arrived at the perfect moment. The Devil Ancestor is using the altar to dissolve the sealing restriction. I do not know what lies suppressed beneath, but it cannot bode well." "We meet again," fellow Taoist Sable Seven Wonders said darkly. "We must act swiftly or face catastrophe." His sleeve flicked outward. A burst of multicolored brilliance erupted forth as 7 extraordinary treasures shot toward the wolf with overwhelming force. The legendary 7 Wonders. Master Sable wasted no time. With a heavy sigh, he produced a sheathed golden sword. Once unsheathed, the blade appeared ancient and dim until he spat a mouthful of blood essence upon it. In that instant it awakened. A dragon's cry, earth-shaking and primordial, thundered from the blade. Blinding light surged from its edge. With solemn focus, Master Sable formed an incantation gesture and pointed at the sword. Then he slashed downward. A colossal sword streak 30 meters long erupted forth like a heavenly decree descending to cleave the mortal realm in two. Before it even struck, thunder roared. The white blade of chi extended into a single line as though it intended to split the sky itself. Yet Devil Ancestor Yuan had already noticed their arrival. A cold glint flashed within the wolf's eyes. Its body trembled. The black chi surrounding the altar instantly retracted, spiraling inward and vanishing into its body. A heartbeat later, it opened its maw and unleashed a dense tidal wave of devilish chi to meet the oncoming assaults. "Be careful," Lady Mu cried. "The devilish chi is terrifyingly potent. If it directly corrupts your treasures, they will immediately lose their spiritual power." The clash came. 7 radiant streaks and the gigantic sword streak collided with the surging black chi. 7 Wonders' expression shifted. Without hesitation, he reached out with a commanding gesture. His 7 treasures halted upon contact, intertwining mid-air. They released a brilliant haze of multicolored light before pressing forward once more. The massive sword streak cleaved through first. Sword light and devilish chi intertwined, violently detonating with an explosive roar. Yellow streaks burst forth from within the black mass, tearing holes through it. Moments later, the multicolored radiance from the 7 Wonders swept across the remaining chi, annihilating it. Both attacks descended toward the wolf below, but several dull puffs echoed from beneath. The wolf spat out fresh torrents of black chi. The newly released devilish energy exploded outward, engulfing both attacks entirely. Dim light flickered desperately from within the engulfing darkness, then vanished. Master Sable's heart jolted. He hurriedly formed another incantation to command his sword chi. It did not respond. A moment later, it disappeared completely. After devouring their assaults, the black chi surged forward with terrifying momentum, rolling outward like a tide of annihilation, threatening to swallow Han Li and the others whole. 7 Wonders swiftly attempted to recall his treasures. Master Sable gripped the ancient sword tightly and slashed repeatedly, generating a curtain of yellow light to shield them from the advancing corruption. His voice turned grave. "Brother 7 Wonders, our ordinary treasures are insufficient against this devil. Use the others. We must not allow the seal to break. I will guard you. I'll trouble you then." Without hesitation, 7 Wonders slapped his storage pouch. In a flash of white light, several palm-sized emerald green rings appeared in his hand. At the same time, Han Li released dozens of golden flying swords. Before the devilish chi could engulf them, golden lightning erupted. Thunder roared. Bolts of radiant lightning tore into the advancing black tide and scattered it completely. Guiling tightened her grip around the massive silver axe in her hand. With a guttural cry, she activated it, and from within the blade burst forth the phantom of a colossal tiger. The beast materialized in mid-air with a thunderous roar, jaws snapping wide as it exhaled a dense yellow mist. The vapor surged outward in rolling waves, forcibly halting the encroaching black chi in its tracks. At the same time, Lin Yinping and the keen spirit peacock, now possessed by Grand Immortal Shu, were enveloped in layers of radiant rainbow, light each scrambling to erect whatever defenses they could muster. Han Li cast a swift glance at the situation around him, before turning his eyes toward the 8-spirit ruler and the Ai Black Wind flag above. One treasure had lost its master, the other had been corrupted. Yet neither displayed its full might. Even so, the inky winds coiling around the slick black flood dragon and the silvery talismanic characters drifting across the enormous argent lotus were locked in a tense stalemate. The clash of radiance high above was impossible to ignore, yet no one dared to divert their focus to seize those spirit treasures. Each cultivator was too deeply entangled in the life-and-death struggle before them. Han Li knew with perfect clarity that he was no match for the devil ancestor. His first instinct was to flee. But flee where? Within this sealed domain, there was no path of retreat. Thus he steeled himself and resolved to endure, doing all he could to avoid becoming the focal point of the storm. Although his divine devil-bane lightning had proven far more effective against the devilish chi than he had anticipated, he would not recklessly throw himself into the heart of battle. His best course was simple: preserve himself and observe. If the devil ancestor were to take note of his particular abilities and target him directly, he doubted he would survive the encounter unscathed. As for the fate of Great Jin, Should the devil ancestor escape, Han Li felt no stirring of righteous sacrifice. He would not throw away his life for a realm that had given him little. With that thought, he quietly extended his spiritual sense toward the altar. The instant it touched the structure, it rebounded sharply, repelled by an invisible restriction. Han Li suppressed a sigh and redirected his spiritual sense elsewhere, only to pause abruptly. 300 meters beneath the surface, he sensed a sphere of faint golden light the size of a foot. The gold-devouring beetles, the very swarm he had previously released. Just like the cultivators and demons above, they too had been drawn into this 9th-floor space. Earlier, he had sent them to probe the walls of the 8th floor in search of weaknesses. But when the Black Wind flag had sealed the area, his connection to them had been severed. Because the beetles had been underground during the teleportation, none of the others had noticed their presence. Han Li's gaze shifted toward the towering stone pillars encircling the altar, their surfaces shimmering with formation light. A flicker of calculation passed through his eyes. After a brief hesitation, he issued a silent command. Below the earth, the golden sphere burst apart, scattering into countless tiny specks that streamed outward in all directions. Meanwhile, Corpse Xiong and the others closer to the altar had begun targeting the stone pillars themselves, hoping to shatter the spell formation and break the stalemate. But aside from Corpse Xiong's bloodblade, whose crimson arcs bit deeply into the stone, their attacks achieved little. Even Long Meng's enormous white spectral hands did no more than shake the pillars. The stone was forged from some unknown substance of extraordinary durability. Given enough time, Corpse Xiong or Long Meng might eventually break them, but time was precisely what they lacked. Just as the newly arrived cultivators contemplated withdrawing to reassess, the wolf unleashed several tremendous waves of black qi sweeping outward with unrestrained ferocity. Alarmed, they were forced to respond with full power. Han Li dispersed the oncoming devilish qi with absent efficiency, golden lightning flashing from his flying swords as thunder rolled through the air. Yet his mind was elsewhere, searching, calculating, seeking even the faintest thread of escape. Nearby, Taoist Seven Wonders had already produced 5 emerald green rings, while Master Sable stood guard before him. Seven Wonders' lips moved ceaselessly in incantation. His fingers flicked in rapid succession, striking each ring with complex spell seals. The rings emitted intermittent cries as they trembled and blazed with vibrant green light. Having temporarily suppressed the newcomers with overwhelming black qi, the two-headed wolf shifted its attention back to Long Meng and Corpse Xiong. In the devil's cold gaze, those two were the true threats. Yuan and Long Meng had once been soul-fused. For countless years they knew each other intimately. For that reason, Yuan harbored deep wariness toward her. As for Corpse Xiong, though he was but a late nascent soul cultivator, the bloodblade in his grasp was extraordinarily formidable. Not only did the devilish qi fail to corrupt it, the blade seemed capable of restraining that qi in turn. Were it not for the immense gulf in raw power between them, Corpse Xiong might have been able to carve through her devilish tide single-handedly. In truth, had Yuan not risked bewitching the younger immortal form sect elder on the previous floor to seize the dragon call, crest she would never have reached this altar. Her devilish qi would have run dry, forcing her to abandon the devil suppression pagoda. Now, however, the seal atop the altar was already loosening. So long as she remained upon it, the altar supplied her with a ceaseless flow of devilish qi. Against so many foes, she still held the advantage and could feel her previously exhausted devilish essence slowly replenishing. Thus she chose patience. She would dissolve the seal methodically and without risk. But at that moment, a powerful green radiance flared to life. The wolf stiffened. An ancient, dreadful familiarity washed over her. Her head snapped upward, eyes widening. The devil restraining bands. She roared in shock. When she beheld the 5 emerald rings, unmistakable fear flickered within her gaze. With a world-shaking howl, an astonishing pressure erupted from her body. Black light gathered in her maw, swelling ominously as she prepared to unleash a devastating counterattack. But Seven Wonders had already completed his incantation. He pointed calmly at one of the rings before him and uttered a single word: restrain. Though his voice was soft, the emerald ring flared brilliantly and vanished. An instant later, the enormous wolf shrieked. A streak of green light materialized beside her head and snapped into place, forming a massive collar around her neck. Ancient incantation characters roamed across its surface as it rapidly tightened. The devilish chi gathering in her mouth was forcibly suppressed. A cry of anguish tore from her throat. In a frenzy, she clawed at the collar, her talons flashing with cold brilliance. Green light burst forth with a dull hum, repelling her strike effortlessly. The band constricted further. The wolf whimpered and wailed, her body trembling in visible agony. Those fighting near the altar erupted in exhilarated shouts. Seizing the opportunity, they unleashed renewed attacks with redoubled vigor. With the wolf restrained, the devilish chi lost cohesion and weakened dramatically. Corpse Cheong and Long Meng surged forward toward the altar's center. The silver-winged night fiend and the lion hawk initially moved to follow, but then paused as they received voice. Transmissions from Corpse Cheong. After exchanging a glance, they veered toward one of the formation's stone pillars instead. From a distance, ghost fiend threads and golden shockwaves struck in coordinated assault. Master Sable and Taoist Seven Wonders' eyes lit with relief at the sight of the devil-restraining bands taking effect. The old Taoist poured magic power into his ancient sword without reservation and slashed forward. A vast blade of swordlight erupted, carving a path through the remaining devilish chi. Simultaneously, Seven Wonders gestured sharply. The remaining 4 emerald bands blurred and reappeared around the wolf's limbs. They tightened in unison. Bound at neck and limbs, the colossal wolf lost her footing and tumbled heavily from the altar to the ground below. Hanli blinked. A memory surfaced, the elemental bands he had once acquired from Heaven Void Hall. Though far inferior in power, their mechanism was strikingly similar. It seemed likely they had been crafted in imitation of these devil-restraining bands. Suddenly, Master Sable's furious voice rang out. "Master Xiong, how dare you?" Han Li's gaze sharpened. Within the thinning black chi, a streak of white light and 2 massive green hands shot skyward, racing toward the transformed manifestations of the Black Wind Flag and the 8 Spirit Ruler. Long Meng and Corpse Xiong had made their move. Lady Mu, meanwhile, remained entangled with her bewitched junior, unable to intervene. Han Li pressed his lips together and frowned, but chose to remain still. Beside him, Lin Yinping and Grand Immortal Shu darted upward as well, aiming for the 2 divine spirit treasures. Guiling shot Han Li a sidelong glance. After a brief hesitation, she too refrained from acting. Above, spiritual light exploded in chaotic brilliance. Thunderous detonations echoed without end. Those who had moments ago fought side by side against the Elder Devil were now divided, turning upon one another in a desperate scramble for the divine spirit treasures. Han Li's gaze, however, dropped back to the altar. There lay the massive wolf, restrained and writhing. His expression darkened. With a shake of his sleeve and a low hum, dozens of small golden swords flew forth, their edges gleaming with restrained lightning. If you loved this story, please consider supporting us through the donation below description. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the best and most immersive video. We truly appreciate you being here with us.